Once you download Eclipse, you get a folder like this. If you open the folder, this will be eclipse.exe. Fine. And okay, a question is being asked: why am I downloading Indigo Eclipse? There are various types of Eclipse packages, Indigo, Juno, and all. Why only Indigo? This is because we will be using a tool known as testng in the course. Okay. Sometimes testng gives issues with Juno. That's why it's more compatible with Indigo. Right. So download the Java ID for Eclipse ID for Java EE developers Indigo package. I'll give this URL to everybody on the WebEx chat. Hold on. This is the URL. Okay. If you have to work just with Selenium, you can download any Eclipse, Juno, Indigo, anything. Okay. But if you have to write the test cases and all, you need testng for that, and testng gives issues with Juno at times. So this is eclipse.exe. You don't have to install it. Eclipse comes as a bundle.
To find out what Eclipse actually I have on my machine?
Yeah, when you start it, it tells you whether it is Indigo or Juno. Okay. It gives you the information. Yeah. So now when you start Eclipse, you get a window like this, workspace launching. This is the location actually which tells you where your code will be lying, where you will be creating all the projects and all. So I will create a new thing over here known as March weekday. Alright, so when I click on OK, Eclipse will start. Now many times Eclipse can give us error while starting. Make sure JDK is installed. Most of the times the error comes up because JDK is not installed. Right. So this is Eclipse. It has been started. Fine. And I'll start with Java language now. Okay. I am assuming that you have the very basic knowledge that what variables are in programming, what loop is, what an if statement is. If you don't know that, then I would recommend you to go to my site and watch these two, training video 1 and training video 2. That will help you a lot. Just watch these two videos in your free time. Okay. So I'm look in the online training, because of the time constraint, right? I expect a little level from you. I'm not saying that you should know Java and other like that. At least what a loop is, because a loop is used in all the programming languages, not just in Java. Okay. So let's start with Eclipse. What we will be doing is in Eclipse, this is known as the Package Explorer. Project Explorer. Fine. The central portion is the portion where we do all the coding, and out here at the bottom you get the reports. Just like any other editor, right? So, right. Now in Eclipse, what I'll do is I'll make a new project. You can make a new project by right clicking on this white space, going to new project, or you can go to file, new project as well. Okay, select pan Java and select Java project. Okay, click on next and click on, just give a project name. I'll give the project name as day 1. Click on next and finish. Right. So now on the left hand side you will see the project day 1 coming up. If you expand this, you get a source folder and JRE system library. This JRE system library is nothing but Java which is installed in your machine. Okay, Java software environment. Fine. And if you right click on the project, you get a lot of options. You will be using these options a lot during while working on Selenium. Okay, one of the important options is this properties. Fine, if you click on properties, you get a window like this. having various parameters on the left side. Fine. One of the parameters is resource. In this, you have this location which tells you the location where your project is lying physically on the hard disk. It's lying at this location. If you copy this, you can actually go to that location. This is the source folder, right? And inside it, it's blank, and basically this is the project day 1, right? Inside it there are various files and folders, out of which only source folder is visible in Eclipse. So as you proceed, we will talk about other folders as well, right? So let's make a Java file. Let's make a Java file in source folder. I will right click on the source folder, select new class, and I will give the name to the class as first Java file. Fine. And okay, the font would be very small. I'll just increase the font. Window preferences. I hope it's visible now. Fine. So you create a file. How do you create a file? You right click, new class. Okay. Most of you might be knowing this. You give the name over here and you create the class. You click on this checkbox, right? So now this is the code which gets generated and it comes to me. Now in Java, everything is inside a class. This is the starting bracket of the class. This is the ending bracket of the class, right? The name of the class, this is the name of the class, should be same as the name of the Java file. It is mandatory. If I give a different name, I will get an instant error. Eclipse will give you an instant error. Okay, and any version of Java can be used. That's not a problem. Okay, get the latest one, GRE7. That will be better. Right. Now this is the error comes up. This error comes up when you don't give the name of the class to be same as name of the file. If you move your mouse over the error, Eclipse will actually suggest you what to do. Either rename this or rename the file. That's what Eclipse is telling me right now. This is the advantage of Eclipse. It's a smart editor. If you make any mistake, and it will help you out to remove that mistake. For example, I forget to give this closing bracket. So I immediately get an error over here. If I move my mouse over the error, it tells me there's a syntax error, insert a closing bracket to complete the body. So it is very, very helpful. It is a very smart tool. Okay, especially for beginners, you can just move the mouse over the error and you can read the error what it is and can sort it out. Okay, the command to print anything in Java is system.out.println. Okay, I can print anything, say in double quotes I write Selenium, and when you run this, it prints Selenium. Okay, command, the shortcut is you print SYSO and hit Control spacebar. Fine, you type SYSO and hit Control spacebar at a command. Now Java is a case sensitive language. S should be capital in system. If I make it small, I will get an error. So always make sure when you are writing the Java code, everything you write is correct, because Java is a very, very case sensitive language. Capital letters and small letters, they make a difference. Okay. Another thing which I want to revise a little bit for everybody are variables in Java. Fine. If you have to store numbers, you can store them in integers like int I equals to 100, long L equals to some other number. So if you have to store integers, you can store it in int and long. The only difference is the size of long is quite large. It's 64-bit in the memory, and the size of int is 32-bit. What do you mean by 64-bit and 32-bit? In the memory, the numbers are stored as in binaries, right? 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. So in case of integer, 32 bits are allocated. In case of long, 64 bits are there. But the thing is, like if I have a big number like this, I will get an error because I cannot store big numbers in integer. But if I store them in a very long variable, I will not get an error. You have to put in L in the end, capital L, and long can accommodate big numbers as well. Right? At times while testing, you have got numbers, say a transaction ID number or something, which are very big in size. So out there you can use long. Fine. So now moving further, to store sentences and all, multiple characters and all, you use strings. This is there in every programming language. Okay. If you have to store decimal numbers, then you can use double. Say double D equals to some decimal number. Fine. Int and long cannot store decimals in them. I cannot put a decimal number in integers or long. If you have a decimal number, you have to store it in double. So this is just a refresher. Fine. This is just a refresher. Okay. And what else? Now if you have a single character or something, you have got char. This char can only hold single character in single quotes. Whether it is English, Chinese, French, German, any character, it should be a single character. Okay, inside single quotes. Right. So these are known as not variables exactly, these are data types. Right. And another most important data type which is widely used is Boolean. It can hold conditions like true or false. This will be used a lot again. As you proceed, you will come to know. For example, in Java, if I write system.out.println 10 greater than 5. Okay, if I am writing system.out.println 10 greater than 5, the output is always in Boolean type, true. That means 10 is greater than 5. If I have a condition like this. If I write 10 less than 5 and run this, then I have it prints false. One more thing which I forgot to tell to the beginners. To run your program, this is the icon on the top. This is the small play button icon. This will run your program. You can also run your program by right clicking on the file and going to run as Java application. Okay, so these are some variables, data types which are there in almost every programming language, and they are also there in Java language. But the only difference is Java is object oriented in nature, and the complete architecture of Selenium is object oriented. So many times people, they go into the interviews and the interviewer asks them the question that, fine, tell me the architecture of Selenium. This is one of the first questions which is asked to many people in interviews. Now, to understand the architecture of Selenium, first have to understand the concepts of object-oriented programming. Only then you will be able to understand it. Now, many times people, they tell me that, fine, Ashish, there is no particular documentation on Selenium. The documentation is very poor. The thing is, it is not like that. If you go to seleniumhq.org, this is the official Selenium website. Go to documentation, you have the complete document, or go to the download section. You have the good Java doc over here. Okay, if you click on Java doc, this is the official technical documentation. Now, to understand this documentation, you have to have knowledge of Java. You need to understand the concepts of object-oriented programming. Okay, so first we will concentrate on Java. and by tomorrow or something we will be looking at Selenium as well. Okay, so right, let's move further. That's what the major objective for the talk which I had in last 2-3 minutes was to make you realize that how important Java is. The most common mistake people which they do is they directly jump over to Selenium. Fine. Now, this is the Java file which I created. Okay. If you look at the physical location, if you look at the physical location where the source folder is lying, inside the source folder you will have the Java file. Fine. And what happens is there is a bin folder over here as well. Inside the bin folder you will see the class file. The class file would be is something like a Java file when compiled and executed. It actually is converted to a class file. Every Java file, if I am having 1000 Java files in my project, every Java file will be converted to a class file. And this class file is something like an exe file. It's a platform independent file. You can deploy this. I have made this code in Windows. If I deploy this class file on Unix-based operating system, Linux-based operating system, it will work anywhere. That makes Java a platform independent language, and that is why Java is preferred with Selenium. As a tester, you can develop the code on a Windows-based machine, but later on deploy the code on a Unix-based machine. Fine. This is the most important thing. That is, it's platform independent language. You can make in any operating system and you can run in any operating system. So every Java file is eventually converted into a class file. Right. Now suppose I have another Java file. Suppose I write another Java file known as sample. Fine. I am recording the session. You will also get the recorded video of the session. Okay, it will be sent on your email ID. The link will be sent on your email ID. In the second, this Java file sample.java, I write system.out.println hello world, and I run this. This prints hello world. And if you look at the bin folder, you will see the sample.class file generated automatically. So inside the bin folder, all the class files come up. Now, if my client is there, he is asking me to deliver the code. So generally, we give the class files to the client, because even if he tries to read a class file, class file is like an exe. If I open this class file, I will not be able to understand what it has inside it. Okay, and he will not get the access to the source code. Fine. So the problem arises that if I am having say number of class files in my project. Generally practical projects are very big and there are say 2000 class files in my project. How do I give 2000 class files to my client? Out here we just have 2, right? So what a general suggestion can be, put all the class files together in a say zip them and send it across to the client. Fine, that can be a generic suggestion, that zip all the class files together and send it to the client. Fine, but in Java technically we call it put all the class files in a single file known as a jar file. Many times you must have heard this jargon of jar file if you have ever worked on Java. Fine. A jar file is nothing but it is like a file which has got thousands of class files inside it. The whole project is packed together in a single file known as a jar file which has got the complete class files inside it, and we deliver this jar file to the client, and that's what has been done by the Selenium guys as well. Okay, when Selenium guys they made Selenium, okay, they made Java. They made it in Java, obviously, Java extension, right? Just a minute. Okay. If you go to seleniumhq.org, hold on. Seleniumhq.org. I'm telling you how to download and configure Selenium inside Eclipse right now. Yeah. If you go to the download section, then Selenium as a tool, it is available in various languages. Fine. There is a download link for every language. Okay. Before I move further, let me give you a little bit background about this tool as well. Fine. Look, initially when I worked on the Selenium for the first time nearly 5 years back, 5 to 6 years back, there was something known as, hold on, there were 3 components: Selenium Asti, one is ID, one was WebDriver. Okay, one was ID, one was RC, one was ID, one was WebDriver. So sorry, great, not WebDriver. Now RC was a tool which executed on multiple browsers and had got multiple languages supported. This was nearly 5 years back when I worked for the first time. Languages like you could work on RC with C#, Java, PHP, Ruby, Python, Perl. There were n number of languages which were supported. But it doesn't mean that if your website is made in C#, you have to use Selenium with C#. No, you can use Selenium with Java even if the website is made in Selenium with C#. I'm sorry. Right? So you don't have the language dependency. Don't think that many times people they come to me and ask me a question, my website is made in PHP, so is it necessary for me to use Selenium with PHP? No, it's not necessary. You can actually use Selenium with any extension. Okay. Now one was ID. ID only works on Mozilla and it's primarily a record run tool. There are various disadvantages to this tool and I don't recommend people using this tool because firstly it is only working on Mozilla, right? Secondly, this tool is yes, Selenium only works for web-based applications. So Priya, yeah, this is the point which I missed out. If you go to the Selenium website, seleniumhq.org, then you will see that it is written over here very clearly, Selenium automates the browsers. It's only for web-based applications. Okay, and these were the initial 3 components of Selenium: RC, ID. ID as a tool, as I was explaining you, it's a record run tool which only works in Mozilla. You know, if you have got practical scenario in which you have got 2000 test cases, I'm sorry, then it's very difficult to use a tool like ID because 2000 test cases running on ID, I cannot tell you in the class, but when you practically do it, you realize that it's next to impossible. Thirdly, ID never generates any reports. There are no reports in ID. What happened to any test case or something where it failed? It's quite difficult. There is no HTML report or something. Okay. Now third is grid. Grid is something which helps you to run your test cases parallelly. You make one machine as a hub and you connect other machines to it, and the central machine distributes the test cases. Say there are 3000 test cases, then I can distribute 1000 test cases on each node. Fine. So this is what grid does. It helps you to execute the test cases parallel. Now okay, the question being asked is ID generates the source code in Java. Look, there is an option to record an IDE and convert it into RC or WebDriver code. But don't do that, that is not practical. I will tell you later on why it is not practical. Basically for dynamic websites which are changing every day, it becomes really tough. So it is better to learn RC and WebDriver and directly learn how to write code in it. You cannot just directly convert IDE code into RC and WebDriver again and again. Right? IDE is a tool in which you can record the application. This thing might not be understood by everybody, but since the question is being asked by Subhash, I am answering it. Okay, so, sorry Subhadeep, I am answering it. It looks very fancy to record an IDE, then convert the code into RC or WebDriver, but in practical scenarios, it's next to impossible sometimes, right? So okay, so as I was talking about, hold on, right now Google started using Selenium. All the Google applications, they are automated using Selenium. Everything, Google, Gmail, all the Google apps, everything, right? Now they found a lot of problems with RC, right? One of the major problems with RC which I saw was that you have to start a server every time in RC. It is the older version of Selenium, and in RC there was a server which had to be started up, and many times the server never used to start up. People used to end up restarting their machines or something. So what they came up with was WebDriver. WebDriver also worked on all the browsers. It had multiple languages supported. Only thing was, many of the drawbacks which were there in RC were straight away removed in WebDriver. Okay, right? I will tell you the differences as well. Let me teach you WebDriver to some extent, and then I will tell you the differences, because if you have the technical knowledge, then you can understand the differences in a better way. Okay, IDE, it has remained same, only the versions they have changed over a period of time, fine. And Grid has evolved over to Grid 2. Grid 2 works on WebDriver as well as RC. Okay, practically maybe this is Grid 1 and this is Grid 2. Now RC is not used by the companies these days. Only those companies who have their systems already implemented in RC use RC. Otherwise, it's not implemented by all the companies these days. So this is a brief history and overall an overview of Selenium as a tool. Fine. Now we will be talking about WebDriver. We will be talking about WebDriver in this course. WebDriver, well, if you hold on. If you look at the WebDriver and if you look at this download link, right, I'll tell you how to download the WebDriver jars first. Few minutes back I told you what jar files are. Jar file is nothing but collection of many class files. When you install Java on your machine, this is Java, what is Java which is installed on your machine. Okay, if we expand this is nothing but collection of many jar files. Each jar file has got number of class files inside it. You see that? You can expand it and you can see that. And we can use these class files in Java to actually work with Java. Right? We look at them, but right now we don't have Selenium jar files in our project, so we cannot work with Selenium. To get the Selenium jar files, you have to go to seleniumhq.org/download, and under Java you have the download link. The latest version is 2.31. You can download this, extract the zip file. Once you have extracted the zip file, you will have a folder like this. I have 2.28 right now with me. Okay. In this folder, you will have these two jar files as well as the jar file under libs. These all jar files are made by the people who developed Selenium and they have given it to you. Selenium is not installed. Many times people make a mistake of saying that I am installing Selenium. It is configured. You have to go into Eclipse and include these jar files in your project. How do you do that? You have to right click on day one. Please look at this carefully. Recorded video will also be provided to you. You can learn from that as well. Right click on day one, go to the properties, click on Java build path option, fine, and go to the libraries option. Click on Java build path, go to the libraries and click on add external jars. So you can add the jar files which you have downloaded from the Selenium website. Add these two jar files and also these jar files. So these are the jar files which you have got inside Eclipse. They come under reference libraries. Okay, so now you can use the features of Selenium which are there in each of these jar files. If you expand any jar file, you will see many class files again inside it. Right. So in Selenium we will now in this project we have now included Selenium and we can start using it. But before I use it, I want to start with the concepts of object-oriented programming in Java. What are objects? How they are used in Selenium? Yeah, Vikram, tell me.
Yeah. Ashish, is it something like for every project we create in an Eclipse, we need to add that Selenium jar files?
Yes, for every project you create, you have to add it. If I create a new project as well in Eclipse, I go to File, New, Java project, and I create a new project. Then by default, inside the project, only Java jar files are there. Okay, so you have to include Selenium jar files as well by going to My Computer, Properties, Java build path, Libraries, and add the jars. Add these all jars under the library, and don't forget to add the other two jars which are outside the library. Many times people they forget to add these jar files, and this is how you configure Selenium.
Don't we have an option to copy paste or move like drag and drop from the project duplications kind of thing?
There is another, you know what, in every project, I told you right, in every project you have a class path file. Okay, this file, it practically holds all the jars associated with the project and the paths of jars. Alright, so if you have to duplicate it, you have to copy this class path file and paste it under replace the other project class path file. You got my point?
Okay.
Yeah, this is the only. There is no drag drop or something like that.
Okay, fine.
So any questions from anybody? I'll end it up for today. Tomorrow I'll start with object-oriented programming and I'll tell you how you use object-oriented programming to use the features. I'll tell you about Selenium as well. How do you use features of Selenium with object-oriented programming? Okay. So any doubts, any questions, anything from anybody?
Hey, Ashish, this is Rajendra. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually I installed Juno's Eclipse.
Yeah.
So shall I need to install Indigo or is that fine?
Just keep on using Juno. In the initial phase you don't need it. You will need Eclipse Indigo later.
So you want me to install the other one?
No, just
Indigo?
keep on working with Juno. No, that's not a problem.
Okay. Suppose if I get any problem in the future again, I have to reinstall, right? So
No, it's not that you will get a problem.
Okay.
Very rarely people get a problem with Juno. If it's working fine, just keep on using it.
Okay. And also, shall I need to install JDK?
If it's a 64-bit machine, then it's better that you install it.
Okay, thank you.
Ashish,
Yeah. Yes.
hello. Yeah, Ashish, like today we have attended this class. How to make sure like we will be included in tomorrow's 25-member slot?
I'll talk to Cisco right away after the class. Okay, and I will increase the capacity.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. When do we get
Ashish, what will be tomorrow's class timing?
same time? Look, the thing is, I am keeping the class timing same for next 6 to 7 classes, and later on we will shift 1 hour before. Like it starts at 9 o'clock, it will be starting at 8 o'clock in the morning Indian time, right? After 6 to 7 classes, these will be the timings: 8 to 9 a.m. IST, which will be 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. PST, and which will be roughly 10:30 to 11:30 p.m. BST. This will be the time, not tomorrow, but after 6 to 7 classes. Okay.
Okay.
Tomorrow we have the class at the regular time, which we have to do. Okay. You will get the recorded session